Welcome back, Michael at Wickerson Studios. Happy Mother's Day. As you can see, what I have here is a pretty simple list manipulation, but in Grasshopper 2. So that should prove interesting to some individuals. I do have a few metas applied for people that have wondered what those things are all about. They're pretty nice, getting control of those, playing off of what you might want. I think I want heart. Nah, I think I'll just do I like these little target circles. And then you can also set the scales on those, which are relative to your window, not actually to your geometries. You can also go farther in your metas data to put things as they bake to geometry and have control over those as well. So very nice tool, meta name pickers, and what you can do with that. All right, so let's jump into this geometry and see how simple it is. There it is, and you can see it kind of coming up as a whole. Once again, I'm dealing with simple ranges, a very simple set. You can see how complicated this can get if you were to type something like 4, that you start to get these complex geometries that possibly wouldn't make any sense in fabrication. So I'm going to keep things pretty simple, like anything in coding, and show you that just the grafted in the plane grid, and then moving it up with another graft is going to allow you to produce a tree, and then you actually have tree data coming out. You can see by the intelligent wires. What I started with pretty simply was going in and finding out in the list items how everything was working here, and I kind of bypassed list. I kind of bypassed all these wonderful manipulation that used to be dispatch, weave, and things like this, and call by patterns. But I'm starting to realize how important those are before you start wrapping your head into data trees. So we need to go back to that. So I'm basically just producing some curves from the list item and picking through those. And these files are all available online if you want to try them. This is one that's going to go in and find list from paths. So you need a and you can do the same thing by finding item from index and then list from paths, which is going to produce the same curves as well. I did find my tree topologies to deal with paths to do so. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'll need paths to actually get at things. But very quickly, I kind of came up against a wall on what I should be doing here, lists from paths, lists from sites, and things like that, that I thought I'd better go in and try the Sift, which is a wonderful dispatch tool, which will allow you to manipulate your geometries, call the nulls out. What's nice is there's a reversal of the Sift by coming down here and actually, let me think where I put it. I might have gotten rid of it. It's right here. Yeah, it's combined, which will get rid of the nulls and pull it all back together. So these two lists, which I'm looking at data, I'm either looking at it as information coming out as points reference, but I could pull my paths out and do the same type of manipulation on my paths, which is going to let you manipulate and take a look at the paths that you're dealing with. Of course, the points are going to default if you do that. So I've interjected a couple of things just to watch my geometry grow. I did a little bit of finding the center through a little bit of math, which is very simple. You do a number count, you divide by 2, and make it an integer, and then you can kind of take a rotation, which is what I did off of those middle points. I was able to rotate them whatever angle I want. So that's what gives the control over this geometry, a very nice subtle continuous kind of curtain that could become a pretty interesting geometry in my opinion. I also have, like I said, those controls over the metas, but pretty simple Sift pattern, nothing more than a dispatch. You should be doing this within a tool that's similar to PathMapper and dealing with your data than actually relying on these, but since they're so common, the Sift, combine, pick and mix, pick or omit or weave, then why bother dealing with your data? You're probably not going to do anything super complex to start with, so just deal with that. What I did go through was I kind of left pick it or omit or weave blank because those are fun to play with and they get pretty complex, but they're really beautiful. And I decided let's go down into the call by index, call by pattern, call by frequency, by site, by value, by nulls, by probability, and random reduce. Those made me familiar, but what I decided to do was just take my tree data and call out by index, which would have allowed me to call out whatever I wanted as I go through as lines. And you have this kind of dashed line geometry in the end that I did, which was just pulling at the curves, which is pretty boring. I'm not doing anything geometric with them, but I can start to drive geometries by the points and what I actually want to interconnect. So I leave that in there, and I have a call pattern here that I'm able to call by pattern as well. And that's actually the geometry. If you follow this back, that's the call by index, but let's take the call by pattern and you've got lines that are coming up here that are doing the same thing. So nothing too tricky to start. The pattern is going to jump a little bit. You can see your data changing a little bit on the far right. But get in here and play around. Give yourself an ability to go in. Obviously, it's going to default if it gets too high past 0, 1, 2, because those are only the points that you have. You have a set of, you have 3 sets of data coming out of here. So that's about it. Well, 0, 1, and 2. You can see that when you look in here at the tree. When you look at the paths, and you'll see that it goes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, and then it jumps up again and goes 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, and then it continues with 0, 0, 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, 1, and 0, 0, 2, 2. So pretty simple to follow, and then you can start building your geometries. I think down here, I was going a little bit farther and repeating what it was like to pull up all sites. And sites are going to allow you to start dealing with what you used to do in your path mapper, with your paths and with your indices. And I have not done any site manipulation yet, but that's coming very soon. So site from index is another one to take a look at. Reducing sites, it's going to give you the same count. And then site from index is a way to get it, and you can see how you can start manipulating where you want to go within this. You can see that I have the sliders up and running from offset, so you can offset, but you can also bring this in by site from path offset, and I'm able to in this one, site from path is different from site from offsets, that I'm able to go into all the paths and have control. And then I have a final one, path from the tree, which allows me to generate that. But actually, it's kind of like grafting it, which is what I did here. So I pulled the indices inside, and I'm able to manipulate that final path higher than the paths that existed. So this is a little more abstract to think about these as paths and how you're manipulating them. But if you start to get a really good understanding of lists and what you're generating in here and moving around, it shouldn't be a far cry to jump from lists and looking at paths over to dealing with trees and looking at paths. So I'm going to leave that as a sample. It's a little jumbly, 7 minutes. I think I'll continue and just keep digging into this as I go, because I didn't want to bypass that. I haven't played too much with the sorting, even though I started to play a little bit. But obviously, filters are going to get you the list, trees, and the meadows are wonderful for outputting. I haven't done much, and this is only because I'm avoiding text right now. The vectors are nice to go through, but I keep going into points. But whenever I go into points and get the point and Cartesian point, I'm like, I don't need to play around with these points and all these wonderful little algorithms that are in here. I'd like to go back to the data and understand this list of trees and tree manipulation, because that's what Grasshopper's great at. And when your mind starts to meld with it, which my mind has slowly done over the last 3 years, I think you'd be in a good position. Thanks again for watching. Happy Mother's Day. Mike at Wickerson Studios.